Good morning, everybody. So, I've been doing a lot of work off camera. I just kind of got in a working mood and started doing stuff. So, big thing. Truck does not have tires on it. Okay? Now, a couple of things I found. And this really leads into why it's so important that you take the time to double check your work. Okay? Because you never know what you're going to find after you drive for a little bit. A lot of times, about 50 to 100 miles, you want to go back and double check. Okay? Now, I did that. I did that. And at the time, everything was good. Everything was fine. However, I've driven, I don't know, probably about 1,000 miles or so since I did my 1-ton swap. Maybe a little more, I don't know. But it's all been local driving, nothing crazy. A little bit of highway, a lot of town. But I found a couple of things. So first off, my passenger side rear tire. If you look right there, you can see a bunch of grease and oil and just nastiness. Okay? So my hub seal is leaking. Why? I don't know. I've got to tear the hub apart and figure that out. But you'll also notice on my spacer here, something is missing. One of my studs broke. So that's fun. Now, while I have this off, I'm actually going to pull the spacer off, and I need to shorten these lug nuts. Or these lug studs, I should say. Because these stick out just a hair too far, and so my rear rims actually sit on the lug studs instead of on the spacer itself, and that's just not good to go. Something else I found is there is play in the stud itself, so I need to make sure that everything is fitted properly. Again, these are things that you find when you go back through and you double check your work, you make sure everything is good. While I'm under here, I'm actually going to be replacing this 2-inch spacer right here with, actually, I'm not replacing this. This 1-inch block is going to come out, and this block is going to get replaced. So I have an 8-degree shim that I'm going to put right here. That'll bolt right to my leaf pack, which will help with my pinion angle. So it'll actually kick it back up so that it's more in line with my transfer case. And that's important, right? Because right now, if I hit the brakes too hard, my pinion drops and it actually clacks on my my straps on the yoke, which is not good. It's actually made it difficult to get them off because it deformed the heads of the bolts. So I'm probably going to have to replace those. Stuff happens. You learn as you go. But I also don't like where some of my brake lines are sitting. Like this one sits really close to the edge of this bolt right here. Okay. This is steel braided line, so I'm not too terribly concerned with it getting ruined, but I'd rather not risk it if I don't have to. Another thing that I'm doing. So you'll see I already got one tire done. I had a suspicion because of how heavy these tires were that they had run flats in them. Run flats are not necessarily a bad thing. But they make my tires way too heavy, and they actually affect the ride quality of your setup. So this is a run flat. Okay, it's a big chunk of hard rubber that sits inside the wheel, and it actually helps these bead locks. It turns them into a double bead lock, which is fine. But I don't need that right now. What they do, for sure, is they add about 50 pounds or so onto the tire. And it also makes them ride really weird at any sort of high speed. So I'm pulling the run flats out. I'm still going to use these split rims or these bead locks because they're what I have. And eventually I'm going to switch to 17-inch wheels. So there's no point in me spending money on 16.5 wheels when I'm going to be changing them anyways. So today, right now, what I'm doing, I'm actually breaking down these tires. So I've got one already broken down that I did on my own because, well, I just felt like working and I wanted to double check and make sure I remembered how to do it because it's been, I don't know, 10 years since the last time I broke down a Humvee tire. But I'm going to finish breaking these down, all 4 of them. That way I can get the run flats out, put them all back together, air them up, and then the tires will be that much lighter and able to go back on the truck and be a little more workable. Now, to break down these Humvee wheels, I actually had forgotten how hard it is to get the run flats out. It's not the end of the world. Like, these are pretty straightforward. You saw the 12 bolts around the outside. When you do that with the 12 bolt, you just got to freaking let all the air out of the tire. It's extremely important that you let all the air out of the tire. Pull that freaking that core, that valve core, out. Let them air out. That way you're not under any pressure when you pop the nuts off of these wheels. Okay, because you got to think this piece right here is separate from the back. All right, so these bolts go through and attach to the back half of the wheel. If you don't let the air out of this tire before you let these loose, what'll happen is all that air is going to escape from in between the wheels and it's going to explode. It is going to shoot this up at Mach Jesus and somebody's going to get hurt. So the best thing for you to do, let all the air out before you ever touch the nuts on these studs. That way there's no risk of anybody getting hurt. So that being said, I'm going to turn this onto a time lapse and I'm going to get these tires broke apart. I got my handy dandy cherry picker here to help me out because that, funny enough, I actually had to look at a video and see how civilians do it because I don't have all the cool tools that I do at my shop in the military to actually get this done. So come with me, see how it's done. See you in a little bit. Okay. By the way, guys, when these separate with the cherry picker, they try to come off at Mach Jesus. So just make sure you stand behind your equipment, that way it doesn't hurt you. So. Guys, so I've got my chain set up. I've got the legs up on the rubber. On now, all that I need to do, I just got to crank this up. It'll pull that top ring off. You don't always need to do this, but this is soap and water. I like to lube everything up when I do this. It just makes everything just that much easier. It's not as important on this ring as it is on the other side, the lower side, but it's still important. So take a look. I'll show you this one, and then we'll roll into a time lapse so you can see me do the rest of them. I recommend going slow because a lot of times the rubber will do the work for you. And there you go. And that's how that works. So, we'll get this off and we'll turn it to time lapse. See you guys soon. All right, well, all 4 tires are done now. So that being said, I'll show you what I'm dealing with the wheels and give you a little better glimpse of like how they work, just for those of you that are curious. What you've got, let me just show you here. So this is your upper ring, okay? So this is the wheel face. It does not have a lot of back spacing because the vehicles these were meant to go on have geared hubs. So they don't really require that much wheel clearance because the brakes on them are not at the wheels. That being said, if we pull this up right here, you can see this is what it looks like underneath. So you got each of your retaining bolt or retaining studs. You have your inner ring right here, and then right here along the edge, okay, just to give you a little better view, this is an O-ring, okay, and that O-ring just helps with the bead lock to keep it from leaking air. Now these I'm going to clean up a little bit before I put them all back together. Normally you would replace these O-rings. I'm not terribly concerned about it right now. These are actually in pretty decent shape. And I wasn't having any air issues when I had them on the truck. So I'm going to leave them alone. They're going to stay on here and until I can set aside the money to get myself some 17s and some different tires, that's where it's at. Aside from that, you've got a typical wheel. Okay, it's really nothing too crazy. Got the balancing weights on this and everything that way. Now, me taking the run flats out of here may affect the tire balance, but that's a risk I'm willing to take right now because the weight of the tires is just obscene when you've got the run flats in them. So that's where that's at. Now, the next project on the list, I went over to a buddy of mine's, and we were able to, here, give me 2 seconds and I'll grab it, and I'll show you, instead of talking about it. Okay. So, I was able to go to one of my buddy's places. He has a press and he has a bigger bearing puller than I do. And we were able to get the old differential bearings off and put my new differential bearings on to my new locker. So this officially has my 410 ring. It's got new cone bearings and it's all buttoned up. About the only thing I've got left to do is I would really like to take a torque wrench and torque all these down properly before I put it back on the truck. A lot of times I'm okay with PFTing things, just making them really freaking tight. However, when it comes to internals, anything internal on the vehicle, I like to make sure that I follow torque specs and I do everything proper. Reason being is it's a lot harder to address any issues when it's an internal component versus an external component where if you notice an issue, it's pretty easy to see that there's an issue. Whereas with this, I have to go off feel, I have to go off of sound, I have to go off of drivability. There's just too many factors that come into play with it. So I'm gonna find myself a torque wrench, make sure these get torqued down before I put it all back in there 100% done. One thing I will do, probably, actually for sure, before I get these torqued down, is I'm going to get the bearings on the pinion and then get everything put back together and get it in the truck so I can get all of my placement done. So I can figure out how many shims I need on my pinion and all that jazz. That way I don't have to worry about it, and I can just, once I get everything torqued down, I can just put it right in the center section, call that axle, the center section of that axle, done and dusted. And then I can move out and take care of the hubs. I want to take my hubs apart, at least the passenger side, because it seems to be dragging for some reason, as well as it's the one with the leak. So I need to address that issue. And then once that's all done, I'll get the axles put back in. We'll get everything buttoned up on the rear. I'll get a new stud in that spacer on the passenger side, and then we should be good. Once all of that is done on the axle, scratch that. I'm probably going to take care of my leaf springs before I do all that with the axle. Reason being, the axle's super light right now. There's not a lot in it, so it's going to be easier to move around and mess with. So that's probably going to be my next project before all this goes back in. So that being said, hang around with me, and I'll be right back with you once I actually get stuff set up and start getting into it again. Alright, so I made a decision. I played around with a couple of things. So, locker, put on the back burner for the moment. Simply because this rear end is super light right now. So, you can see I've got some jack stands set up. I am going to put my angle shims, or at least I'm going to take out the lift blocks in the rear for the time being, and get everything swapped over while it's nice and light. And then I can put the pinion on and check my angle. So, change of plans. You guys are going to join me along some problem solving here. So, one of my issues with this setup is I've got these races in my pinion housing, right? This is the nose of my 14 bolt. I've got issues with the races in here, trying to get them in all the way. Now, what I'm going to do, because I'm sure there's a tool out there for this, however, I don't have the money, nor do I really want to take the time to go research it and find it. So instead, I've got some 1/4 plate, or 3/16 plate rather, that I'm going to take and make my own tool. So I can actually get this stuff compressed in. That way I can put it in the truck and be happy with it. Now, are there risks? Sure. Could I damage the races? Sure. Could I break something? That's always a possibility. However, I like making tools like this because then it works for my application. Whatever I have going on. Now, it may not work for everybody, and I'm sure it doesn't, matter of fact. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there who would rather spend, you know, the couple $100 or whatever on the tool and make their lives a little bit easier. However, I am not doing this in a market type environment. I'm doing this at my house, on my own, and all I'm trying to do is just get it done. So as it stands, my goal is to round off these ends, right, and create a basically like a half diameter or half hemispherical end on either side that fits in this housing, and then I'm going to drill a hole right through the center on this side and the other side, and I'm going to take, and this will be essentially cut in half, and it's going to be 2 plates. Now I'm going to have a bolt and a nut with big washers on either side, and I'm just going to use the rattle gun and compress them together, and that should compress these races into place without having to use a hammer, brass drifts, or anything else. We'll see. If it works, money. If it doesn't, oh well. You know what? What am I out? A little bit of sheet steel. So we'll be right back. We'll see how this works. Okay guys, I'm about to do something I've never done before. I've seen it done numerous times. Still sketches me out. Well, I was going to videotape a cool thing that I've seen done before, but turns out I either did not heat up the bearing enough, or I just could not get the pinion cold enough. So, yeah. That didn't work. It's on there. It's definitely farther on there than what I would have gotten, but it didn't work. So I need to go see my buddy Derek again and borrow his press so I can actually get the pinion onto, or get the pinion on the axle, so I can correct my pinion angle. So before I do the degree shims, I want to make sure I have the pinion on and get that the nose of the axle on, and get my yoke on so I can actually angle my drive line appropriately. The last thing that I want to do is get this all assembled and then have to pull it all apart and reassemble it again because I made a mistake. So I'm taking a step back. I'm going to take care of my pinion, get it all situated, get it in the truck, or in the axle, set my pinion angle, and then we'll go to assembly. There are some things I can do in the meantime. Right now I'm going to go have dinner with my kids. But if I get back to it tonight, cool. If I don't, cool. Either way, this is time I got to spend. So I'll be back with you when I'm back with you. Hopefully with this bearing pressed on, so I don't have to deal with it anymore. Appreciate your time, guys. I'll see you soon. Good morning, guys. So it's the next day. I ended up having to go to my buddy's house and press on a bearing. On top of, I had to call it quits after I picked my son up from school just because of time. We had dinner, went over to my buddy's, got the lower bearing pressed on, the one that goes right here, and then put my kids to bed, and that was it. That was my day. So today we're going to finish up my pinion and yoke setup, so I can get it in the axle, so I can then set my pinion angle. Hopefully this goes smoothly. We'll see. Right now I'm about to compress the bearing onto the crush sleeve inside of here. So you can't really see it, but inside here there's the bearing. Underneath the bearing there is one of these sleeves. That is going to be assembled, ready to go in. Once it's all said and done, I'll get it in the truck and then set the pinion angle, and then I'll go to actually do it, seeing if I need the degree shims, how I need to set them up under the how I need to set them up under the leafs and on top of the axle, and get everything set so I can get it all reassembled. I still need to take apart the hubs But this is my priority right now, so hang out and we'll get her done. Alright guys, so pinions put together, all situated, nice and solid, spins freely, as it tips over. So, let's see, can I get it to, there we go. It's spinning. Oh. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So, I pulled the yoke back off because there's a seal that goes right here. So I'm going to put that seal on. And then this originally had only one shim on it. So I'm going to start there with these shims that I got from Yukon Gear and Axle to make sure that I keep it standard for what it was. Once I have all this put together, I'll be able to test my pinion angle to make sure everything is good, and then we can start reassembling everything. So I'm going to get this seal in, then I'm going to get these shims in, and then it'll be time to start putting it all back in the truck. So hang out and we'll get her done. Okay guys, so here's what we got going on. I got my buddy Cody here. Hello. Say hi, Cody.
Hello.
We've rebuilt his engine in his car, and we're going to be doing an axle swap on it this weekend. But until then, he's helping me out real quick. So I took my lift block out because that extra inch really wasn't needed for my application. And it corrected my pinion angle a little bit, but not enough. So I'm going to have to go through and put my 8-degree shims in there so that points farther up, so that I can take my transfer case right up in there and move it back up the extra inch that it needs to go up. So hang around and see how it all pans out. Well guys, I gotta call it quits again. North Carolina weather is wonderful. So just FYI, it's like 5 o'clock. We got a big storm coming in. There's supposed to be like golf ball sized hail coming in. So I'm gonna wrap it up. But bonus, my axle is nearly done. So I got the 8-degree shims in. It seems to have more or less fixed my pinion angle. And my pinion's in. I just need to make sure that it's nice and torqued down. And then I got to pull my hubs apart. The only other thing I have to do is get the center section in and get the lashing set, and we'll be on the road again. But yeah, we got some pretty, I'm sure you just saw that. This is a big storm. So I'm gonna call it a night, and I'll be back with you probably tomorrow, guys. Be safe out there. Hey guys. Sorry, it's been a couple of days since the last time that I filmed. I've had help. One of my buddies came over and has been helping me get the Suburban knocked out. And instead of taking up a lot of my time and doing the filming and everything that way, I just sat down with him and we buckled in and got her done. So she is back on all 4 wheels. I was able to get tires mounted. I got my driveline angle corrected. It works so much better. And those 410s pull these 37s so much better than the 373s did. So there's still a couple of things I need to do. I need to tear apart my passenger side front hub still. And I got some other things I need to go through. But right now, him and I are working on his car again. He bought the old axle out of my Suburban, and we're getting ready to modify it and throw it into the car. So that being said, I'll see you in the next one. This has been a fun project. and I can't wait to do more to that old pig. She works good. We'll talk at you guys later. Take care. Alright guys, so today we are going to be working on this. Y'all know what this is? So this is called a spring hanger. Let me show you. So I bought these a while back because my truck is on a half-ton setup. So I needed something more heavy duty that would hold up to the bigger axles and the bigger tires. So I went to Offroad Design. I got these hangers. And just for reference, that's my factory hanger. Okay? Look at the difference there. That is ridiculous. So, today I'm going to be replacing these. This brake caliper, for some reason, is dragging on my rotor. I'm not sure what's going on, because with the tire on and caliper on and everything, this whole system barely turns. But right now I can spin it freely and it works just fine. So I got to figure out what the hang up is with this caliper and why it's dragging so hard, because the other side doesn't do it. It's either fluid or something's wrong with the caliper or an adjustment's off. I'm not sure, but I got to figure it out. The other thing I'm doing today is right here. So this is my sway bar. Okay. Now on this side it's not a big deal. I set it in the middle depth because it was a middle ground. I wanted to give it a shot, see how it rode, see how it functioned. If I needed to change it, I would. Well, time's come, I need to change it. So I'm actually going to move from the center hole to the rear hole. Reason for that is if you look to the other side, you can see my sway bar over there. It is impacting, or it's binding a little bit on my pitman arm. So I need to move it back so that it'll lift the hump on my sway bar up so that it clears my steering. Once I get that done, everything will be Gucci, we'll be good, and yeah, we'll go from there. Let me get to it, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so I want to take a minute. That time lapse showed a little bit of me under the truck taking a spring hanger off. So check it out. Here's what we got. Okay, these are my original spring hangers. Now with these, they got some girth to them. They're not exactly light duty, right? But they're old, they're wore out. They're the original hangers for this 88 Suburban. These are the new ones from Offroad Design. Okay? So as you can see, a little bit thicker, just a smidge, but just generally a bigger setup. Now if you do a side-by-side here, just to give you an idea, that's the difference. So now I did get these a ½ inch longer than factory. What I'm hoping it'll do is just kind of play around with where my front axle sits a little bit. Shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, look at that. It is just flat out a bigger, better hanger. So I can't wait to get these on and see how the truck drives with them. I'm excited. It'll be fun. Another thing Offroad Design sells, which I am a big fan of, is this bolt. Okay, now this comes as a kit, But this is a greasable bolt for your spring hangers, or for really any bushings. I've got it on all my spring bushings, that way I can keep them greased, keep them lubricated so that they last longer. It's got a grease zert there, and then it's got, if we clean it off here, there should be a hole right there. Okay, so when you grease this up, it comes out right here and it spreads all along the actual connecting surface with the bushing, which helps make your bushings last longer, and it makes it quieter, so you don't have to worry about freaking squeaky squeaks all over the place. So, I just want to take a minute and show you guys that, show you the difference of what I'm actually doing and the upgrade that I'm doing to this. This is the last bit of parts that I currently have for the truck to install. The next thing I got to do is get a front yoke and a new U-joint, and then my four-wheel drive will be up and running again, and I'll be able to take this out and go play around. The truck is shaking really bad at about 45-50 mile an hour. I think my tires are just old, so I may have to suck it up and go buy myself some tires and wheels, which I was planning on doing anyways. I don't really want to do it right now because that's a lot of money I just don't have at the moment. But one step closer, as soon as I can get this done and get my four-wheel drive working, that's one step closer to me taking this out, getting a good shakedown run, and that is one step closer to me actually doing an expedition. The next few projects I'm going to be working on with this truck after this is going to be my sleeping system, my actual living system in the back of the truck. So I switched gears a little bit. I'm steering away from using wood. I've got some angle iron right back here in the corner that I'm going to use to frame out my my sleeping system, so that it's a little bit sturdier, a little bit lighter, just genuinely a little bit better built. I'm a lot better with metal work than I am with woodwork. But that doesn't mean it's not going to have wood on it, because I need drawers and cabinets and a couple of things like that. So hang out with me. I'm going to finish up these spring hangers, and then we'll go from there. See you soon. Good evening, everybody. So I've had some technical difficulties with my camera the last couple of days, so I haven't been able to finish up the video that I wanted to get out to y'all this week. It should be uploaded Sunday, June 8th or June 9th. Let me correct myself here. But I'm crossing my fingers I can get it done. If not, it'll be up Monday. So check it out. Here's what went down. So I did a whole lot of work to the truck, as you've seen through this long video. Biggest takeaways. Do your research before you buy your parts to make sure you have the parts that you need. Number two, when you get into it, expect your plans to change, because you're going to find broken parts when you're dealing with with parts from other older vehicles. You're going to deal with other people's projects that you are probably not understanding fully what they did or what they didn't, because they probably didn't tell you. You've also got to realize that time is not your friend. You've got to give yourself enough time to actually do the project. I managed to do all of those things and still had stuff that I had to figure out. So it happens. It happens. But on the flip side, the goods. The 1-inch blocks went back into the rear leaf packs with my 8-degree shims from Offroad Design. That gave me a good level look on the whole of the truck, paired with the heavy-duty shackles, leaf spring shackles for the front end that I bought from Offroad Design. Made a night and day difference in the handling, night and day difference in just how it drives, how it rides. So I highly recommend, if you got a square body or an OBS, check Off-Road Design out. They'll hook it up. They're really, really good to work with. My driveline angle is more or less corrected. That is an awesome thing. I've been looking forward to this for a while. However, I was not able to correct it enough to move the transfer case back up into its factory position. So I'm going to have to go back and reevaluate my spring perches, reevaluate where my transfer case is located, see if there's some bracketry that I can build to go between the cross member and the frame. That way I can brace it a little better. My sway bar. I was able to get the sway bar moved. It did not do what I had wanted it to do entirely. So I was going to move the sway bar so that I could clear my steering pitman arm. The problem is it only raised my sway bar maybe 1/4 of an inch, which was not enough to do what I needed to for the pitman arm. But it does give me a little bit more of my steering angle. So you win some, you lose some. Maybe that's something that I address later on with some longer tie rods for the sway bar, or sway bar links, I guess I should call them. And then my exhaust leak, I actually managed to take care of that. So I had like 5 or 6 header bolts that had come loose since my last video on the headers and the exhaust install. Not a big deal. I just went back through, took my 3/8 wrench and tightened them all up, and everything seems better. I still have a little bit of a leak coming from the one factory stud that I use to maintain the bracket for my AC and my power steering. So I'm going to have to evaluate that and figure out a different way, a different method of getting the compression that I need on the header so that it actually seats on the head a little bit better. Okay, so I've covered a lot of things. There are aspects to this that in a professional shop I would not have let slide. It's my personal truck. I've ran things in a lot worse condition for a lot longer and had no issues. The one downside that I have right now is I still feel some shaking in the truck when I drive at higher speeds. That I'm about to the point where it's got to be the tires, because everything in the suspension is tight. All my hubs are free spinning. They're not causing me any issues. And the although I do have some brake caliper drag in my front right tire, that's all I've got in the suspension that could be causing any sort of shake or anything that way. So other than that, it's got to be the tires or the wheels. And I just don't have the money to do anything about that right now. So I'm going to drive the truck as it is, deal with it, and then just keep an eye on all the working pieces that I went through, make sure everything stays nice and tight and snug and happy. And then when I'm able to afford tires, I'll address it at that point. I am sticking with the 37-12-5. I'm just going from a 16.5 wheel to a 17-inch wheel, and I'm going to have a little bit more outset on my wheel placement. I want to get rid of the wheel spacers. They drive me nuts, but I would like my tires to stick out of the fenders at least 1/2 inch. That way I can get some buffer room between any obstacles that I'm going through to the body of the truck on the lower side, it definitely helps overall. Also gives me a little bit wider stance for a little more stability with how much weight I'm planning on carrying in this truck. So bear with me on that. Stay tuned. I'm sure I'll figure something out. I just don't have that at this time. So I just want to conclude this, guys, with thank you so much for following. If you're enjoying the content, please shoot me a subscribe, shoot me a like, shoot me a share. I love the support. It's amazing. The fact that anybody follows me to see this old pig getting built is ridiculous. It makes me so happy. So by all means, like, share, subscribe. It all helps, and it's free. So, you know, doesn't cost you anything but a moment of your time. With that being said, I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. It's probably, I want to do a little bit of a like dirt road exploration video in the next one, because I've been doing a whole lot of tech videos, not so much on the adventure videos. And a lot of that, sadly, is because of the economy right now. Fuel prices are way high, and in a truck that gets maybe 8 to 10 miles to the gallon, it's really, really difficult to get out and go explore and go do a lot of things, when the closest, say, OHV park to me, which is where I go do all my rock crawling, is 3.5 hours away. The place that I would love to go and do some more wheeling, because it's a beautiful area, it's a great camping area, great exploration area, it's Hurricane Creek. That's 6 hours away. So I'm prepared to do the drive. My pocketbook is not. So stick around. We'll get some adventure videos in. I got some spots that I can go hit up here local. They're not long. They're not difficult. They're not even considered trails per se. But they do give me some flexibility, and they do allow me the opportunity to get my tires wet, get them dirty, that kind of stuff. So hang around, and you'll see me getting dirty and taking the Suburban out and kind of playing around with it. If you guys haven't already, follow me on Instagram. It's at basic_bird 1988. I'm looking at changing the name at some point in the near future. I just haven't settled on a name yet. But that's where I post a lot of my update photos when I'm not on YouTube, because, well, I'm always doing stuff, I just can't always videotape it. So check it out. If it's something that you like, shoot me a follow. It all helps. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And I hope you all are having a wonderful day, night, or otherwise, wherever you're at. And take care.